Hola clase, bienvenidos a la clase de Español 1. Welcome back to Spanish 1 class. Today we are looking at Capítulo 11, Chapter 11, Lección 28A, Lesson 28A. We're going to do some review today in class of our verse for this lesson, Primera Corintios 15:3b. We're going to talk a little bit more about Peru, food in Hispanic countries as review. We're going to go over, just quickly review some of our principles of vowel pronunciation, look again at our AR cognates, and then we're going to spend a little bit of time in our grammar portion today reviewing the preterite conjugations of all three types of our verbs. That's AR, ER, and IR verbs. So we'll do some preterite review today and then do a couple of activities with that review. And then we'll be done with today's lesson. So let's jump right in. And if you haven't had a chance yet to go through the playlist and watch the video that I posted about the top 10 reasons to visit Peru, I think you'll find that to be very interesting. So if you haven't done that already, please take some time to go and look at that video, the top 10 reasons to visit Peru. Remember that the capital of Peru is Lima. Continuing to move on, we've been working on our versículo for this lesson, Primera de Corintios 15:3b. Cristo murió por nuestros pecados conforme a las Escrituras. Primera Corintios 15:3b. Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures. Let's do some quick word review and see if you can remember these words that we've been talking about with this verse. ¿Cuál palabra nos falta aquí, clase? What word is missing here? La respuesta, the answer, es pecados. Sin, pecados. La próxima. ¿Cuál palabra nos falta aquí, clase? Escrituras, scriptures, escrituras. La próxima. ¿Cuál palabra nos falta aquí? What word is missing here? Murió, died, murió. La próxima. ¿Cuál palabra, clase? La palabra es conforme, according, conforme. Y la última, the last one, ¿cuál palabra aquí, clase? Which word here is missing? So pretty simple. Por, for, por. I hope you got all of those right, and I hope you're practicing this verse so that you're ready to say it when we get to the end of this lesson. You will need to write it out for our quiz. We've been reviewing pronunciation of our vowels in Chapter 11, Capítulo 11. Remember our vowels in Español, A, E, I, O, U. And these vowels are pure vowels, meaning they are not diphthongs, especially when we're looking at the vowel E, which would be our English E. E is not A, it's just E. And O, not O. Oh, there's no movement in your mouth. It's not two sounds coming together as one. It's a pure, simple, single sound. Oh. And there are several words here that we practiced last time to make sure that you are getting those vowels right. The easiest thing, I think, to practice these vowel sounds is to repeat them the way they should. A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. You say it. A, E, I, O, U. Even when they're in words, they get pronounced the same way. A, E, I, O, U. We looked at a few cognates. Remember that words in English that typically end in ate, those verbs, when we want to make them Spanish, we just need to change the ate to ar. So words like recuperate in English would become what? Recuperar. And the word terminate would become what? Terminar. Learning that skill will help you to learn all sorts of words that we maybe did not cover in class, but you can make that change because you know the principle, ate becomes ar. Moving on, we talked about food in Spanish countries. We talked about different dishes and different foods that are traditional to specific countries in Latin America. Remember that we said that beans and rice is a very typical food for almost all Spanish-speaking countries. And we broke some things down from country to country. We talked about specific fruits that are eaten in a lot of our Caribbean Spanish-speaking countries. We talked about how Mexican food tends to be a little bit more spicy than other countries. We talked about Argentina, how because of their cattle industry, they have a lot of beef that is eaten in Argentina. So make sure you're looking through that. Make sure that you are able to answer those questions that are there at the bottom of the screen from your book as well. That will demonstrate that you have a real understanding of the reading that we had there on that page. We went through and had the conversation, you remember, between Juan and Pepe. We had the comilón. Do you remember what comilón was? Comilón is a person who eats a lot, is a glutton, or a person who just overeats. And we had that kind of humorous little dialogue between the two guys about their friend and how much he ate. I hope you were able to answer some of the questions about John, about Juan, and his tremendous appetite here. Make sure that you know what these answers are and that you can look through that conversation and you can identify, even in 1 or 2 or maybe 3 word answers, what that dialogue was talking about. And then as we move to our new grammar for today, this is just some quick review, just some very quick review of our preterite conjugations that we've been going over for several lessons. Remember that preterite is the past tense in Spanish. It is something that occurred, something that happened. The preterite forms of regular AR, ER, and IR verbs are right here, and they're very simple to conjugate. All AR verbs, all regular AR verbs are conjugated just like the verb hablar, just like that verb. All regular ER verbs are conjugated just like comer, to eat. And all regular IR verbs are conjugated just like the verb vivir, to live. Entonces, el verbo hablar es hablé, hablaste, habló, hablamos, hablaron. Comer, to eat. Comí, I ate. Comiste, you ate. Comió, you ate, if it's formal, you ate, or he ate, or she ate. We can say María comió, María ate. Francisco comió, he ate, Francisco ate. And then comieron. Comieron would be you all or they. Ellos, ellas, ustedes comieron. For vivir, to live, viví, I lived. Viviste, you lived. Vivió, he, she, or formal you lived. Vivimos, we lived. Vivieron, they lived, or you all lived. I do want you to notice that for hablar, AR verbs, and for vivir, the IR verb, notice that the nosotros form, hablamos, and vivimos are the same as the present tense. So it's going to be context that is going to help us to understand if it's the present or if it's the past that we're talking about. Now for comer, if you look at the nosotros form for comer, you will see that this form is actually, it changes to the I. So comimos there is different than the present tense. Comimos being we ate. The AR and ER verbs that have a stem change in the present tense, and you will be glad to hear this, that stem change does not happen in the preterite tense. So for the verb pensar, to think, that is typically in the present tense, that's an E to IE stem changer. Do you remember that? Pienso, piensas, piensa. Pensamos, no stem change in the nosotros form. Piensan. But that stem change does not happen in the preterite. And so we would say, I plan to go to class. Pienso ir a clase. But if I said I planned, past tense, to go to class, notice how that stem changer disappears. Pensé ir a clase. Encontrar, to find, would be an O to UE stem changer. But in the preterite, that stem change doesn't happen. So while I would say encuentran al señor Rojo, they find Mr. Rojo, if I put it in the past tense, encontraron al señor Rojo. Notice how that stem change disappears. They found Mr. Rojo. Encontraron. Perder, E to IE stem change in the present tense, but not in the preterite. Pierde sus llaves. He lost his keys. But no perdió nada. He didn't lose anything. perdió. Notice, no stem change. That E in the stem stayed an E. It didn't change to IE. And then the last one at the bottom, volver, to return. Volver in the present tense is an O to UE stem changer. Vuelven temprano. They returned early. However, when we put that in the preterite tense, they returned at 1. Volvieron a la una. Do you see the verb conjugation? There is no stem change there. That O stays the O in the preterite. It didn't change to UE. So let's practice a few of these here. Actividad 1 en página 234, page 234 in your textbook. And let's look at Actividad 1. All we're doing here is changing this verb from the present to the preterite. You should be pretty good at this by this point. We've been reviewing the preterite for a long time, Spanish class. So let's try these together. I would like you to do the odds. You can do them on scratch paper. You can do them on some blank space in el cuaderno in your workbook. But do 1, 3, 5, 7, y 9. And when you're done, we'll take a look at them. So go ahead and pause the video. Work on these 5 problemas, these 5 questions, these 5 things that you are changing the tense, and then we'll look at them together. All right, I hope that went well for you. Let's go ahead and look at the answers to a few of these odds that you worked on. Okay, so número 1, we changed nace to nació. Jesús nació en Belén. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Número 3, caminó con sus padres a Jerusalén. He walked with his parents to Jerusalem. Caminó. Número 5, volvieron a buscarlo. They returned to look for him. Volvieron a buscarlo. Número 7, al comenzar de su ministerio, Jesús llamó a 12 discípulos. At the beginning or at the start of his ministry, Jesus called. That's the preterite. He called 12 disciples. Número 10, los discípulos obedecieron a Jesús. The disciples obeyed Jesus. Los discípulos obedecieron a Jesús. If you have any questions on those, make sure that you mark your corrections in red. That way you can ask if you need to. You can know why you missed what you missed as we move on. And then the last activity that we'll practice today is, again, just some quick preterite review. Actividad 2. Escriba los verbos en el tiempo pretérito según las indicaciones. Write the verbs in the preterite tense according to the directions that are given here. Now remember, some of these in the regular present tense would have stem changes, but we don't have those same stem changes in the preterite tense. So watch for those and do not put those stem changes in the preterite tense. Go ahead and pause the video. Let's do Actividad 2. You can put it on some scratch paper or you can put it in a blank area in your workbook. And then we'll come back together and we'll check your answers before we wrap up today's lesson. All right, so let's take a look at those answers that you have there. Again, as we check these, remember to mark your corrections in red. That way you can ask about what you missed if you don't understand. Remember, as always, our goal is for you to understand why you missed what you missed so that we have an understanding of what you did wrong. Okay, so here are our answers for this activity. Número 1, for ella, the subject, she. Pensar means to think, so we would say ella pensó, she thought. Ella volvió, she returned. Ella perdió, she lost. Número 3, the subject is yo, so we'll be using the yo form of the preterite for each of these verbs. Yo pensé, I thought. Yo volví, I returned. Y yo perdí, I lost. Número 5. The subject is tú, which means you, and it's the informal or the familiar you. Tú volviste, you returned. Tú comiste, you ate. And tú encontraste, you found. So those are the conjugations there, and I hope you got those right. If you have any questions, let me know. So let's go ahead and wrap up today with some review. What did we do in class today? Well, we introduced the first portion of Lesson 27 from Capítulo 11. We reviewed our scripture verse, 1 Corinthians 15:3b. We talked some more about Peru, and I hope you've watched or you are planning to watch that tourism video, which I think is really, really interesting. We talked again about some food in different Hispanic countries. We reviewed our vowel pronunciation, talked about our cognates, ATE words changing to AR words in Spanish, and then we reviewed our AR, ER, and IR preterite conjugations, paying special attention to remember that those stem changers that happen in the present don't happen in the preterite. And then we did a couple of activities. As always, check my lesson plan carefully and make sure that you are doing the homework that is assigned so that we can review that the next time we're together. Que Dios les bendiga, clase. Adiós.